Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. We are so excited to have you here for our first learning session of 2024. We are kicking things off with a bang tonight. We have the Quantum Soundtrack Part 2, Music's Role on Brain Coherence. If you came to the October session, which was the first session in this series, you will have learned all about the music's influence on heart coherence. So this will be a continuation of that discussion and the way that we can really use and utilize music to influence brain coherence in our practice and everyday lives. Now, if you missed part one, it's no worries. You will still be able to get tons of insight and introspection out of tonight's conversation. And we have the replay available on our YouTube channel that you're always welcome to check out after. Now, I am joined by two very special guests this evening. We are here with author, speaker, producer, and composer Barry Goldstein, who has composed and provided music for many of Dr. Joe's meditations. He is such a wealth of knowledge, and it is a huge blessing to have him here with us. Along with Barry, we are also joined by Give to Give's chairwoman, who is a total powerhouse, our very own Rose Kiola. Now, before I pass things off to them, I just want to get into some logistics for the evening. So Barry and Rose are going to go into a conversation about music's influence on brain coherence, on all things of how you can utilize it, the role that it's played in their lives, just a natural conversation that will evolve from there. After they're done talking, we are going to open it up to our audience. So we're going to go into a live Q&A with our audience. You are welcome to come on. We'll ask you to come off of mute, and you can ask your questions to the master of sound himself, Barry Goldstein. Now, if you have questions that you would like answered by Barry, we're going to request that you send them in the chat box. So send them in the Q&A box that's in the bottom middle of your screen. This will ensure that we know who's wanting to come off of mute and have their question answered. Alternatively, if you have a question you want answered, but you don't necessarily feel comfortable coming off of mute, you can send it to me privately or send it in the Q&A box and just let us know that you would like it read by somebody on our team. So after that, we will go into a meditation with our audience. So we'll all meditate together in community. We're going to do Go Love 20 tonight, which Barry is going to explain the background on. He composed and provided the music for this meditation. So it'll be really wonderful to get to have this whole conversation on brain coherence and the way that it can influence our lives, and then get to practice together in real time. So without further ado, I would love to open the floor up to Barry and Rose and let them tell you all about brain coherence and the way it can make a difference in your life.
Great. Thank you, Sophia. Barry, here we are again. So
Hey,
excited.
Rose.
I love spending this time with you.
Same here.
I wish I could be in person and spend a little more time with you, like delve deeper into your brain and learn more your talent with the world. And so of our viewers and listeners, the master of music himself, Barry Goldstein. So thank you for making the time for us.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to a great conversation. I love the first one, and part two, here we go.
Here we go. All right. I have a wealth of questions. I hope I don't overwhelm you. I will try to pace myself, but in thinking about this, I just get so wound up and excited about all the things I want to ask you. So can you first of all share your perspective on how, from your personal experience, your own personal experience, how music contributes to a sense of mental balance and coherence?
Well, actually, you know what, Rose? I think maybe I should just show you how.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, just because, I think it's great to talk about music, but also we're kind of transitioning from that busy mindset of the day. So I'd just love to have myself, as well as everyone else, kind of drop down and let's see if we can quiet the brain a little bit so we're in a more receptive state to receive and talk about this. So I'm just going to let a piece of music come through.
Go for it. Go for it.
And I usually do this based on, group energy and seeing if we can find a beautiful, sweet, coherent spot for all of us to kind of sink into. So I invite all of you, and I'm going to do this as well, just to start off, bring awareness to our heart space and just give ourselves a big breath in through the heart And a big ah out. So it's great making that ah sound. I call this a soul sigh because it's like our soul coming in and saying everything's going to be okay. So no matter what you experiences you challenged in your day, you have the ability to move that stress out of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and just let it go. So I'm just going to move to the keyboard. I invite you to just close your eyes, slow your breathing down, and I'll take us on a little journey for the next couple of minutes. And just giving ourselves a big breath back into our heart. And a big breath out. And just feeling ourselves a little more present in the physical body, a little bit more coherent in our brains. At least I am anyway.
What just happened? What just happened in my brain right now? That's like,
I didn't hear you for a while, so I'm not sure. Oh, I mean, you know, I
wow.
think it's, I think sometimes we just need permission, don't we? To just slow down and just give ourselves that time. And it doesn't take long. You know, music's a carrier of information. So when you're hearing someone playing, a composer or a musician, you're not just hearing the notes that they're playing. You know, you're hearing their emotions in that moment, you're hearing their intention, you're hearing the nuances of the notes they're playing, and it's creating a field on its own of information that is then you're able to come back to that space, because we know this from research that music creates autobiographical memories. So when we are remembering something, or we're in those states, that we're not just thinking we're remembering it, we're feeling, we are there in that moment when we hear a piece of music. And it gives us the ability to work with the brain emotionally, mentally. We can create neuroplasticity with it. We can create new neural pathways. There's some really amazing research that's being done with music in the brain.
What just happened with me was I was super excited, and I'm still like energetic. But after listening to that, I feel more balanced. I feel more peaceful and balanced. Where maybe before I felt a little um like revved up, or not revved, well, yes, revved up out of excitement, but maybe a little more all over the place. And now I feel just as excited, but I'm grounded. Balance just seems to be the word that keeps coming back. And like that was incredible. I really hope that everyone else listening has really had that same experience. And just, what was that, 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
I think it was more like 4 or 5, but it
It
goes.
felt like it was just so quick and amazing what we
Yeah,
can
and
do.
I think our brains become resynchronized, and that's really the key, is that resynchronization of we're moving back into rhythm with self, so that
Yeah.
part of you that was there, you were excited, but you get to connect to your own unique vibration. And when you're able to move out of those thoughts, those busy thoughts, you come back to the home of yourself. And that's what, for me, always feels like I'm coming back into rhythm. It's like when you travel and you go away, you're excited to be someplace new, and it's fun, but there's nothing like coming back home and sleeping in your own bed.
Mm.
And music has the ability to do that, and reconnect us with our heart. It's always there, it's always waiting, and our brains, obviously.
It's
They're always
amazing.
there waiting, but sometimes you just need to fine tune a little bit and allow ourselves to receive and slow down.
I love it. What does it take to be able to produce music that brings your brain back into coherence? I couldn't even imagine what the whole process is like for you.
Well, we talked about it a little bit in the first part, but I had never really expected to be doing this type of music. And it was really, and just like that, for there, right there, was for me first, so that I could be good for everybody else. And
Mm,
that's really where it always starts for me as an artist, is creating something, music that feels beautiful and authentic to me and slows me down. And really, music has been my savior, in terms of creating this type of music because it's this process on a daily basis that keeps me grounded and yet still connected. So I always think of it like as a tree, like we're grounded and we can be connected to the energy of the earth, but we can also still have one foot in the cosmos at the same time and bringing this energy in. So it's like a foot in both worlds. And it's a combination, of 30 years of doing this, Rose, and also studying and looking at the mathematics sometimes as well of music, that in terms of synchronizing for the brain, what brain waves are we targeting? Where do we want to go? And really going from there and adapting that. So it's not always the same for every piece of music. Thank God it's not the same, because I get really bored. But it's targeting specific states. And just like individualized medicine is the best medicine, taking each piece individually and deciding what is being used for, what is the end goal for this piece of music, and then taking a step backwards and seeing where I want to go with a piece, deciding how I want to get to that area of coherence, whether it's going to be heart coherence, brain coherence, both. And we're going to discuss it. There's more than one way to get to these coherent states. It's not just a matter of panacea that goes across the board and is the same every time. And as you see with Dr. Joe's work, it's not one flavor. There's many different aspects of it, and it's not it's powerful, and sometimes it could be simple, but it could also be complex. And so it's all of these things in one, and that's really the key in doing music like this. It's powerful and simple, but there is a complexity to it that a lot of people don't realize. It's not just something that you can do when you're buying your Apple GarageBand. It's a balance of knowing when to occupy the mind, when to move it into trance state, when to let it go and just receive, and how much music, because music's like dosage. What's the prescription? How much do we want to give the listener to listen to, and how much do we want them to not have a lot to move into the analytical mind with? So it's a very detailed question.
Yeah.
So that's a good starting
very,
point.
Very complex for sure. And speaking of Dr. Joe, a significant aspect of Dr. Joe's work revolves around brain coherence, particularly the pineal, right? The pineal gland. He talks a lot about that. And where do you believe music plays a role in the activation of the pineal gland?
Well, what I love to use as
and
an
I know
example.
it's not a simple answer.
Huh? No,
I know
it's
it's not a
actually.
simple answer. Sorry.
I love the question, but I think of it. If you've ever been to a live event, which I'm sure a lot of you have, that the pineal meditation is a lot different from the recording of it. It's like a 4-hour process. So for me, the analogy of a film is great, because I think of it like a film. You're not just doing one piece of music to get into that state where you're activating the pineal gland, or you're decalcifying it, or whatever the target is for that particular section of it. It is a full-length movie, and that movie has different scenes in it. They're not all the same scenes. And the aspects of that are, there's a visual to that scene, although you're not seeing it on a screen because your eyes are closed, but you are having suggestions, right, of that create visuals in your mind. You are having a dialogue, just like a film, where there's dialogue being exchanged, where Dr. Joe is taking you through a specific process, and there's music. So just like a film, those three components of it, and they're all integral for each other. So if you took out the dialogue, it wouldn't be as powerful. If you took out the music, it wouldn't be as powerful. If you took out the visuals, it wouldn't be as powerful. They all work together. But there's those different scenes are what's really important because there's a mechanism for it. And so if you think about the music for the beginning of a pineal meditation, if you're doing a breathing meditation, the term comes ding that thing, right? That you hear at events. Like we're literally targeting that pineal gland, and you're using your physical body, your breath, your energy centers. There's a mechanism of squeezing and pushing and holding, right? That is working with activating that pineal gland. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that could be achieved by a relaxing piece of music?
No. And for me, I know being at, numerous events over the course of X amount of years, I cannot, I need the week to prepare myself for that mentally, emotionally, coherence wise. I could never walk into an event the morning that we're doing that pineal and sit down and do that pineal. If I don't have a buildup of the knowledge,
Right.
the understanding, and having experienced other meditations and music and connecting on a different level, I would never be able to sit for 4 hours and do that meditation. It wouldn't happen.
Right, absolutely. So you have to,
yeah,
it's a combination, right? You're bringing in your wisdom, your expertise. There's physical things that you have to do. So it's not just one type of music. So for the breathing pieces, when I'm composing, I'm always putting myself in the receiver's seat. I make believe I'm at an event, I'm doing a breathing technique, going into that pineal meditation. What do I need to get there? And if the music's moving me, when I'm doing like a song like Inferno, right, that has like big epic drums, right, and it's big, I'm standing up in this room, and my speakers are pumped, right? So I want to feel
feeling
that
it.
energy.
Feeling it
I want to
now.
be in the event. I don't, it's not a passive thing. I'm
Right.
part of the event already, even though it hasn't happened. It has happened. So in the time that I'm composing it, someone's already having a breakthrough in my mind, right? And it starts with me. If I start moving that energy, I know I'm onto something. So, that's how the breathing pieces are done, is really a lot of rhythm, because you're synchronizing to rhythm. You need something to rhythmically move into to get that push and pull going, that's going to target that pineal gland. So that's one aspect of it. That's scene number one, right? Scene number two, it always happens to me after that big breathing piece, and like a song like Cosmic Consciousness comes on, then all of a sudden it was almost like the breathing was a rocket ship that took me off. And now all of a sudden I'm in space, right? And I am just there. I'm part of everything, and everything is part of me. So that is the music now, that I'm slowing it down and I'm targeting the brainwaves to slow down through a multitude of things. It's either going to be through first slowing the heart down and creating those smooth, orderly rhythms in the heart. So targeting the heart at a relaxed state, about 60 beats per minute, and our respiratory rate starts to slow down. We start to surrender, and we start to move into a parasympathetic state where we are just able to receive. And that's really where we start having those experiences. And then there's other parts of the meditation as well. When Dr. Joe has you moving back up, you're sitting back up again, and you're doing a different type of breathing. So there's different types of music for that as well, that is still slow, but it has a little bit more to hold on to rhythmically, so that you can get that rhythm down of how you're going to breathe. And then there's another section where you're just receiving. And that is really where, open up the heart space, and a beautiful, the composition really becomes an integral part of that, of the piece there with the pineal gland. Because when you're moving into those relaxed states, and research shows this, that you begin to produce more melatonin, which is, of course, produced by the pineal gland. So the music is, in fact, inducing your internal pharmacy in many different steps. So it's going from ding that thing to floating out in space to, more passive breathing to receiving. And every step of the way, just like a scene in a movie, has specific music that is going to help you achieve the your visualization of what it needs to be. And Dr. Joe's guidance is integral to that. Nothing's random about any of the words that he's saying and how it marries with the music. Dr. Joe is a master at guiding and knowing where the audience needs to be in any specific moment in that audience. Dr. Joe knows where he wants to take the audience. And I learned that, when we were doing this live, Rose, at the beginning of these events. And, and actually Dr. Joe was more of conducting and orchestrating as we were doing this live. And you can feel the wave when we were doing it live of when people at first, the more the busy brainwave states, and you can feel then people moving in where it was almost like they were breathing in exact timing together. And you can feel this unbelievable wave of coherence, 1,500 people, doing it with live music. And, we would just look at each other and, we'd go like that, because, Dr. As I said, he knows where he wants to take the audience. And music is a big role in that, and he knows what music he loves, what music resonates with him, and what music he feels is going to take the audience there. And that's really always the key concern, is the participant, is how do we get more people to have these experiences, and how can we fine tune this and collaborate and create together?
Well, I mean, I think you're doing it. My whole experience, having practiced a number of different modalities in meditation, I've always, this was one that's always resonated with me. It was the music that spoke to me, that got me to achieve the ultimate experience. So I get it. And yeah, I mean, if people, there are more people that can allow themselves to have the experience, to be open and receive as well, I think it would be, we could have a even larger community than we do now. So reflecting on your own musical preferences, do you find that certain genres or musical practices seem to resonate more or less? Can you discuss maybe some sound tools?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about that. So there's a lot of different ways to get there musically. I'm going to kind of, talk about them a little bit. So one of course, when we're working with heart entrainment, we're working with synchronizing tempo. When we're working with brain coherence, we're working with synchronizing or entraining to specific brain waves. So we can target those brain waves by introducing specific frequencies into music. And many of you might have heard of the term binaural beats. So binaural beats is another way to get there, to entrain the brain and target specific states. So for instance, if you wanted to target alpha brainwave state at 8 hertz, and that was where you wanted to go, and you wanted to move into a more creative state, then we would introduce perhaps the frequency of 100 hertz on one ear, 108 on the other side, and then the brain synchronizes to the difference between the two, which is 8 hertz. And we can introduce this into a musical piece so that the music becomes a carrier of that information, of those frequencies, and your brain can actually synchronize and train to it. And there's many companies that do this. I've done several CDs as well with Monroe Institute and HemiSync. So if our viewers are interested, binaural beats is a great way to move the brain into that coherent state. It could also be done with what's called monaural beats if you're not working with headphones, because binaural beats, you have to have headphones because it's a left and right ear. But monaural beats, you don't need headphones, and it's the same principle of finding the difference between those two frequencies. So that's one way, with music carrying those frequencies. And as we keep saying, music's a carrier of information. I think of it, we call it a sound wave. You're riding that wave of sound. What information do you want to carry on that wave? And I invite you to try that. Next time you're doing a meditation, focus your energy on some of the music or a sound in there and drop your intention on that sound wave and allow it to entrain and resonate with us, because resonance amplifies a specific frequency. So when one frequency amplifies another, your intention is a frequency. So you can amplify that and utilize music as a carrier of intention. Another way, which most people don't think of, Rose, is chanting. So believe it or not, chanting Om creates what's called limbic deactivation. And that is when when our limbic system is deactivated. They've done studies that show that we move to a sense of inner peace, and we move to a sense of being more serene. And by chanting Om, they had two different groups. One group chanted S, the other group chanted Om. They did fMRI studies, and they showed the group chanted S had absolutely no effect on their brain. But when the other group chanted Om, the area of the brain that lit up was the area that was associated with inner peace and serenity. And I can give you a personal experience, a very profound experience. I don't share this with that many people of when this happened to me. So this was before I knew the research on Om. I was with my dad bedside, and my dad was literally passing of cancer. And it was the first time I found myself alone with my dad in months, because the whole family was around him and worried about him. This particular day, my mother was so tired that she went home, and I'm in the room alone with my dad. And they were about to put him into hospice, medical hospice in the hospital. And I can tell that was always something my dad feared. He never wanted to go into hospice of any kind. And so I can see when I came into the room, Rose, my dad's eyes were literally like moving in his head. His eyes were rolling around in his head. And I was like, oh my God, he's not here anymore, you know? And I remember literally hearing an inner voice that said, you need to chant to him. So if you knew my dad, you would see why I'm smiling, because my dad was this limousine driver in New York City. He did not believe in any of this stuff. And, you know, if he saw me chanting on the side of his bed, you know, he would not be happy.
What are you doing? Yeah, I get it.
So I tried to ignore it, you know, and I tried to kind of like, I'm saying, I don't know what you want me to chant, but, you know, I'm not chanting to my dad. I keep kind of getting that nudge. No, you need to chant to your dad. So it's like, okay, you know, I'm just going in here. He can't, you know, I don't know if he can hear me anywhere at this point. So I find myself at the front of his bed with my hand on top of his head, right? So we know this as the crown energy center, right? And that's where my hand was. And so I said, okay, I'm just going to start chanting. And I start chanting Om, you know, and I just keep chanting Om over and over again. And I can feel there's like a warmth starting to emanate from my dad's head. I can feel there's energy moving. And so I keep chanting, very uncomfortable for me, but I keep chanting. And I open my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, literally, my dad was staring right at me. I mean, his eyes were not moving. He was in a completely coherent brain state. And him and I literally had the chance to have I didn't realize it was my final conversation with him, because he passed that morning at 5 or so in the morning. But I was able to say, Dad, I just want you to know everything's gonna be okay. Do you know that I'm here? Squeeze my hand. He squeezed my hand. I said, I love you. He was just looking at me. He was able to actually smile a little bit. And from then on, I realized that there's so many things we don't know. There's so many ancient healing modalities that can move us to these states. And when I wrote my book many years later, I remember my wife asking me, so what do you want to write about? And I said, well, I want to write about chanting. I want to write about drumming. I want to write about all of these things that I know can get us to these coherent states. And it's the same thing with drumming. For those of you who have experienced drumming circles as well, when we're in a drumming circle, we're synchronizing together. Imagine everyone playing, right, a drum at different times. But when you sync together, and you move into synchronization, studies show that we're moving to more coherent brain states. So we're producing more alpha brainwave states. And they were able to use drumming circles to create this coherence in PTSD vets. Literally in one session, they were producing like 10 times as many alpha brainwaves than they were beforehand. So, science is catching up to spirituality. It's not the other way around. We've known this for thousands of years. Our heart beats a drum, right? It would make sense that when we drum, we connect and we are able to synchronize, and our brain's able to slow down because we move out of the thinking mind. And that's really what happens when we're doing repetitive chanting like Om, or we're doing repetitive drumming. What happens? Our repetitive thoughts can say goodbye, because it's hard to think a repetitive thought when you're drumming, in a group with that energy, or when you're chanting Om. So these are things that are easier, for people to tap into as well. You can do Om by yourself. You can do it silently if you wanted to. And these are things that you can plug into your day. So these are probably tools that are not always used, but sound tools are very, very powerful, and they've been around for thousands of years for a reason.
They have been. And what a gift you got there with your dad. How amazing to have had that experience with him.
I know. So, and and I know that when I was opening up that Crown Energy Center, that I was making it easier for him to leave his physical body, and that's, why I believe that there was that warmth in his head, because his energy centers were balancing and aligning, right? If you think of that, I think of the energy centers as an antenna to the divine, right? And if your soul had to go through a passageway, right, would it move easier through an aligned one, or one that, had a couple of kinks in the road, or was, out of balance? So yeah,
alignment for sure. Wow. Oh, you just blew me away with the story. Sometimes when we listen to music, we feel a certain emotion. Like I'm very emotional, especially with music. I could cry in a heartbeat. I could, be super happy and excited. And, can you tell us like how that relates to the changes in our brain? Like what is really happening when these emotions are starting to get set off to someone who really doesn't understand why it's happening?
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, we have neural pathways that basically music can connect to, and we can revisit memories through music and emotion very easily. And they're using this for like Alzheimer's patients. And they're seeing that I might ask an Alzheimer's patient or someone I know, do you remember Christmas in 1962? And there's absolutely nothing there. But if I play White Christmas, because that was a song that he or she loved, then all of a sudden they're calling them awakenings, right? Oliver Sacks talked about this, and there's a great video with an Alzheimer patient called Henry. If you have the opportunity, look it up on YouTube. And this is how music accesses memory, those autobiographical memories that literally take us right back there emotionally. And when that happens, we are producing different hormones based on that. So when you're moving into that place where you feel you're being rewarded by music, you start producing dopamine. When your stress is calming down, you stop producing cortisol. When you're moving into that, place where you hear a piece of music and you get chills on the back of your spine, you start to produce oxytocin. So music has a direct effect, not just on our emotions, but how the emotions engage with our brain to induce this internal pharmacy that can create benefit. And I think really that's the key. It's not just, oh, wow, that's cool. But, and we're going to get more of this in part 3 of our quantum talk, how do we plug this in to our day? Like knowing all these things, all these power tools that we have, that's awesome. Wisdom is great. But unless you're moving it into creating something that's programmed, on a daily basis, then they're just cool tools. And who just wants cool tools? I mean, we are here, we're doing this work because we have a power, passion, purpose. There are things we want to do. There are things we want to create in, this world. And so music can target those emotions when we talk about those elevated states. If you ask yourself, how do I get to these emotional states? And for those people who have a hard time getting to those elevated emotional states, marry it with a piece of music. Where am I going? Where am I now? Where do I want to go? And what piece of music is going to take me there? And if you say, wow, I want to go to a place of gratitude, I have a gratitude playlist, that I utilize. And I have, I have songs that, I have my happy song, I call the Jackson 5, the Love You Save, so that when I get in a rut and I get cranky, I'll put on a song to shift my mood because I don't want it to move into one of those days, and I know music is a tool that can help us navigate our energy. And that's why we're gonna talk about in part 3 is becoming the DJ of your own life. Just as a DJ programs their day, and programs a wedding or programs a prom, where we can program our lives with music. And either you are going to allow yourself to just continuing to have random situations where music affects you in a profound way. That's great, but they're random. How can you program them every day and literally schedule your day around your music? We schedule everything. Why aren't we scheduling our music?
You're absolutely right. And I created my own gratitude playlist, and I love it. It helps remind me of things that I'm grateful for and getting back into when I feel like I'm moving away from that feeling of gratitude because I'm getting caught up in my everyday life and stressors and all that. I get reminded of, pull it out, man, play that music, girl, and get back into your gratitude moment. Now, can brain coherence also be created through music without synchronizing with the heart? And
Well,
vice
I mean,
versa.
I believe that they're interrelated, and their science is showing more and more of that. It's opening up a new field of study called neurocardiology, which is how they intertwine together. So, and they're showing, when you move to those coherent heart states, again, you're synchronizing. Heart coherence is defined by smooth, orderly rhythms. So we can target the heart to entrain to specific types of music. And if you're slowing your heart rate down, right, and you're moving into a relaxed state, doesn't it make sense that the brain is going to follow? They can't really be independent of each other. Your heart can't be relaxed and your brain can't be in high beta at the same time. And it's the other way around as well. When you're in high beta, you're probably, and you're in your focused states during your day, and you're going through your to-do things that you have to get done in your day. You're probably not going to be in a relaxed heart state. You're probably your heart rate's probably going to be up and I would think it's going to be above 60 to 70 beats per minute, which is where you are when you're in a relaxed state. So I believe that they have an effect on each other. And I think that the more we learn about that, the more we can utilize that to focus on really what's going to work better for a person, as opposed to prescribing something to them that might not work. Someone might not like binaural beats, they might not like the effect of it, but they feel they're more of a heart person, and they sink down into their heart easier, so why prescribe something that's not necessarily going to work for somebody, if we can get there in a lot of different ways? And that's why I'm recommending, look into chanting, look into drumming, look into dancing. A lot of different things can move you into coherence.
Okay. So if somebody was looking to get into more of a brain coherent state, you would recommend, maybe it's not necessarily focusing on brain coherence, it would be focusing on what resonates with them. Would it be,
well, I mean,
like,
ultimately, it's still
their
focusing
heart?
on brain coherence, right? Because they're looking to move. It's right. It's defined by order, right? They're looking to move out of a disorderly state, right? Which in most cases is our thoughts that we can't get out of, and they want to move into a state where they're not as analytical, or they're in a state where they are more coherent, in terms of they're more synchronized to the state they want to be in. So it's really not just a matter of moving into coherence, but what state do they want to be in? Do they want to be in a relaxed, attentive state? Do they want to be in a state before sleep? Right. So because you're going to use different things to get there based on what you're targeting. So it's really important to know the different, what different brainwave states you're looking to move to, and what are you trying to achieve, during it. But yes, you can get to brain coherence by also moving into heart coherence. And yes, the other way around. It's just a matter of where you want to start first. Do you want to start with the brain and, create binaural beats, or isochronic tones, or chanting, or drumming? Or do you want to start with the heart? And it might be different every day. Like, why do we have to just have one prescription? Our vibration changes every day. Our challenges of what we're dealing with changes every day. When we can have more than one tool that we can utilize, that's when it becomes powerful.
That makes sense. And so then, like, an everyday practice would be like just tapping into yourself and asking yourself, like, where do I want to be today? Am I feeling more in my heart, that I want to be more in my heart? Am I feeling that I want to
Right.
be more in the brain? Like, where to start, right? For like an everyday kind of practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're going to dive much, much deeper into that, next time, because literally, you can look at your schedule and plan your music around that,
Oh,
but really it's
oh,
starting to,
genius. Yeah.
you have to, they call it like doing work for a reason. It's not always like an aha moment, like I'm this right now, so I'm going to do that. Like sometimes we're triggered by someone in our day. Someone says something to us, and it triggers our issue. Maybe you have an issue in your throat energy center, and you have a challenge, being heard, acknowledged, and appreciated, in your life, and something comes into your day where you're challenged by that. And all you know is, as your day goes on, that you're depleting your energy. Something depleted your energy. But if at the end of your evening, you're looking to wind down and you want to bridge into a more peaceful state, and going to sleep at night, you know where does the introspectiveness come in terms of looking at our day, like what may have caused me to lose or have my energy depleted? And if I look at my day, my situations, my challenges, and I say, wow, where am I now? Where do I want to go? What's going to take me there? I'm here now because, oh wow, right, someone said something to me that triggered something for me. And that's where my days started kind of going down, when I didn't feel like I was being heard or acknowledged. So moving into going to sleep, maybe I go through a process of, knowing that the divine hears me, that I need to start by listening to myself first before others, listen to me. I have to hear myself. And I play a piece of music that's going to allow me to delve a layer deeper into working with that, and that's what I mean by, asking yourself where you're at. It's not just saying, oh, I'm happy. Oh, I'm sad. Oh, I'm joyful. Oh, I'm not. It's like, okay, I want to know not just what puts me in balance, but what's taking me out. So the next day, maybe I have a different reaction, or I spend my energy in a less reactive state and I get to respond to the energy as opposed to overreacting, and respond being derivative of the ability to respond or responsibility to it. So we want to kind of track our energy and see how we can, fine tune it and utilize music as a vehicle to take us to those different states.
Were you in my office today?
Well, we all have offices.
This actually happened to me today, that I was in this great state this morning. I had my meditation. I went through this whole, like, how am I going to show up today? And then towards the end of the day, there's a phone call, a Zoom call, and it just threw me. And, I kind of asked myself some of these questions, but not to the depth that you have gone through here. And I'm going to take it offline and go into it and have myself to have a conversation with myself. And I'm going to do this practice when we're done. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Like, yeah, we only have so much energy, right? I mean, if we don't know where it's going, right, and how can we budget it more effectively, in terms of our lives? Because I don't want to spend the same amount of energy in a situation with a person that I had a lot of drama with, right? I want to kind of budget that energy and spend less time where I can. And, it's not always possible. We have these things called families as well, right? And sometimes we're spending that energy, and we have to be present, but if we could be cognizant of how we're spending our energy. And for me, music, sound, and vibration have just been a savior in terms of able to renewing my energy on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'm starting to look at things differently now. I want to be mindful of the time. We'll open the floor here for Q&A, but is there any final thoughts that you want to leave our audience with during this session?
Well, I mean, my biggest message is utilize music to magnify your mission. That's, I believe, is one of the major blueprints of music, is to magnify what we're doing here and to utilize it to invite the divine in to co-create with you, that this is not something that, we collaborate with alone. I'm never alone in my room just creating by myself, that I'm always collaborating with something beyond myself. And you are basically your own sound healer. Don't let anyone prescribe what is going to work for you. You know what is going to resonate with you, by listening to your body and being able to identify whether music's taking you to a state where you're expansive or you're contracted. So start embracing those tools as your own sound healer, and start, if you were a doctor, right, what one piece of music would you prescribe for yourself tomorrow? And start with that, because ultimately you're the one who is, you're the doctor for yourself. So there you have it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both so much.
So
what an
amazing
epic conversation. It's amazing
it could go
to
on
get
for
to
hours.
I know, and I could listen to you two for hours. So we have lots of good questions coming in, and up first, I'm going to read one from Dawn Marie that says, I'm an advanced student of Dr. Joe's and I'm fascinated by your work and the extraordinary part your music plays in elevating listeners to higher dimensions and altered states of awareness. Could you please explain for me what solfeggio frequencies are, and if you intentionally incorporate them into your compositions? From heart to heart, I thank you for your contribution to my personal ascension journey. Your talent is a sacred gift to the world. Barry, take it away.
So I mean, literally, that could be, a 3-hour workshop starting to talk about different frequencies. But, solfeggio frequencies were thought of as lost frequencies that were biblical frequencies that were then brought back into being. And, again, like I don't prescribe a specific frequency for a specific thing. I'm an artist basically, and just like an artist paints, what they're moved to paint with is the same way that I experiment with frequency. So I might try a frequency, a solfeggio frequency, and say, wow, I would love to create um, a piece of music around that specific frequency. And I've done that before. I've done that with an album called The Heart Codes, which utilizes triple number frequencies and also incorporates one of the solfeggio frequencies in it. And that was actually that was actually used in the placebo meditations. But it wasn't, my intention wasn't really just, okay, well, let's use some solfeggio frequencies. They're supposed to be healing. Again, it resonated with me and it moved me to create a composition. And so that's where I'm starting from. Is I believe that we should experiment, and we should take on the energy of a child when we're in that creative process of trying things for the first time, and the curiosity of that. And that's usually where I start from. If I hear something about a specific frequency, I might be curious about it. I might try it, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to implement it in a song. There's a lot of different ingredients that go into what makes a piece of music healing or not healing, and frequency is one of the ingredients, but not all of it.
Thank you. Up next, would love to invite Nikki to speak. Nikki, if you want to come off mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi,
I
I
can hear
can.
you.
My question is regarding You Inspire soundtrack. It's
Okay.
a very short soundtrack. I really love the soundtrack, and it's kind of a build up, start from slow and it slowly builds up. And basically, I love epic music, and I'm wondering how brain coherence, how does it work in this kind of situation?
Yeah, well, that's what I talked about with the pineal gland in terms of moving that too. So moving into that state with be in mind that we need to get to step A before we can get to step B. And so inducing the physical body is something where you're going to need that epic music. You're going to need those drums to drive you and to synchronize you into rhythm, right? Where your physical body is moving in a certain way. And then as we move through that process and we move into states where we're more relaxed, then we begin to move into a more orderly fashion where our physical body and our brain are synchronizing together. So it's really step one, of that process of moving into synchrony. And in this case, rhythm's driving it as opposed to specific frequencies that we can utilize in the brain. Rhythm, as I said, is one of those ingredients, those smooth, orderly rhythms that we can synchronize to allow us the ability to create more coherence.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wonderful. Up next, we have a question that is, in reflecting on your past compositions with/for Dr. Joe, please share with us 1 to 2 songs that stand out to you that you just absolutely love. Every time you hear them, you get so jazzed and pumped. Basically, ones you compose that's your perfect medicine oftentimes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I mean, to be honest with you, I love everything that we've done together. And I have to love it, in terms of the creative process, because if I don't love it, I always feel like I have to be the one that falls in love with a piece of music first, and then it will find the audience to fall in love with it as well. But I would say, if I had to narrow the playing field down, Hallelujah, Amen was definitely one of the most inspiring pieces to create, and especially keeping in mind that there at the time that I composed that piece, it wasn't being used for coherent hearings. So in a way, I created it tapping into the energy of that the prayer is already answered. Hallelujah, amen is said at the beginning of the song, starting from the premise that the prayer is answered, and how important that became within the coherence meditations as well. And then, cosmic consciousness obviously has just been a piece that when I listen back to it, I don't really remember the creative process at all. Like I listen to it as if it's the first time every time that I hear it. And so many people have utilized it in meditations that I would say that those two are probably my top two, with walking meditation number 6 is probably number 3. So
Amazing. Thank you. Up next, would love to invite Brian up to have his question answered.
Hey, Barry, thanks so much for making yourself available. This is a fascinating area to me. My question relates to frequencies, just the basic frequencies, 432, 440. Hey, I'll just ask you that question. Do you think there's a big difference between A440 and the 432 frequency? And the bigger question is, are there frequencies that you think are more effective for certain types of intentions, healing, growth, attraction, etc.?
Okay, so that's kind of like a part 3 answer, but yeah. So for me, I think that the question of frequencies are many times oversimplified. So when we're talking about 432 or 440, we're not really talking about just a specific frequency. We're talking about a specific tuning. So in other words, when someone says, do you like 432 or 440 better, they're talking about a way to tune our equal interval, mechanisms, our instruments, so that they can play a variety of notes and frequencies at a different tuning, if that makes sense. So
yes, I understand.
Right. So every note on a keyboard, all 88 of them have different unique frequencies. And so when we're creating a different tuning, it's not a frequency, it's a multitude of frequencies. So yes, there is a difference, between the two. And obviously, the differences are based on one being lower than each other, and having I feel like the 432 has a little bit more of an earthy feel to it because it's lower and it's tuned lower. Than the 440 has a higher one. I've also tuned to 444 and tuned with that as well. Again, there's so many different pieces of music. Like how many pieces of music, Brian, I'll ask you, have you had healing experiences with in your life?
That's hard for me to answer. I can tell you that the meditations I've been doing have been having a great impact on me, but I don't know what frequencies they are.
Right. Well, that's my point though, right? So, and I'm not talking just about meditation. So when I talk about healing, for me, healing could be a song that comes on that moved you so much that you moved to tears. Or, when you hear a song, you thought of, someone that you loved very much. Have you ever had that experience where a piece of music has affected you?
Yeah, music
right.
is very emotional.
Right, absolutely. So for me, that's a healing. And I think we think of a lot of times when we talk about healing and healing frequencies, we're thinking about the physical body, and there's emotional, spiritual, there's mental healings that occur all the time. And people have had thousands of healings in A440 through their lives that we can't negate because something in the composition moved them and they didn't know what frequency it was. Right. And I'm sure that people have listened to songs or pieces of music in 432 that have drove them crazy, that to them it feels like it's scratching nails on a board. And it's not necessarily because of the frequency, it could be because of the composition. So there's so many different criteria that can be conducive to a person having a healing experience, that I think for me, the most important part of this is, as you said, you've had some healing experiences and you don't know what frequencies they are. So asking ourselves when we're having a healing experience, what about this music is making me feel this way? Is it frequency? Is it the melody? There's a lot of different things. And as well, now maybe go back and see if you can find out what frequency it's in, as opposed to starting from there's a specific frequency that's necessarily going to be a panacea. So again, it's a hot topic, and I think that most of us, even in sound, are looking for panaceas or cure-alls or things. Let me plug this in for that. Let me plug this in for that. There are definitely some rules of thumb, that can work for sleeping challenges, listening at certain tempos, listening at lower, slower frequencies before you go to sleep. But ultimately, if you don't like the piece of music itself, you as the listener, it's not going to have any healing effect, because you're not going to be able to move to a relaxed state. So ultimately, it's you as the listener deciding what's healing for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is really powerful. It's powerful to hear just how much of an impact music can have on our lives and how individual it can be for each of us. And meditation is such a key piece of that. So I'm excited that we're going to be moving into meditation in a few minutes here, but I just wanted to read one more question from our audience before we do that. And thank you both for coming on, because it's been so wonderful having you here tonight, and I'm really looking forward to session 3. So for our last one, it's, do you think that there is a note or a vibration that can cause the pineal gland to vibrate? I often wonder if in ancient history they were able to do this with a certain tone vibrating the crystals.
Well, again, I don't know that your, Sophie, your pineal gland and my pineal gland are going to be vibrating at exactly the same frequency to start with. So I think that I think there's a note for everything. And when we find that specific frequency that does resonate with it, is it possible that that can happen? I believe that it could, but I don't believe that all of ours are the same. And I think that's why you have different people having different experiences at events and different times that, you see in the audience that pineal glands are being activated. And they probably each have their own unique story of how that occurred. So I believe that we change on a frequency basis every single day, and your situations and things that go on in your life change your vibration every day. You're not the same person that you were yesterday. You don't always like the same music that you did before. So I'm just constantly experimenting, and I do that with sound as well, and my own voice. And my courses are geared towards that as well, that you can create tones yourself as well that can make different areas of your physical body vibrate. And I use this when I had a dental procedure, I had pain in my mouth. I said, wow, if I can find the actual resonance or the frequency of that pain, I could probably work with clearing it. And I toned in my mouth and made my mouth vibrate until my mouth was vibrating in the area where the pain was. And initially that pain hurt a lot because it was amplifying that space. But as soon as I knew that I was on it, I kept toning through it. And when I stopped, the pain was gone. So we're just scratching the surface. You could probably get there and activate your pineal gland with the sound within you. And just as you can do that with a sound outside of you. And that's not to say that I don't try different frequencies and different tunings. I just did a piece of music in 432 that I really love. And I love trying all the different frequencies. But again, experiment with sound and say, wow, I wonder what sound I need to sound to activate my pineal gland. And again, ancient these sound tools have been used for thousands of years, show that when we're toning or we're chanting and we utilize our tongue, right? So I could chant Om with just my mouth, right? But if I go Om, and I move my tongue to the roof of my mouth, okay, now I've created this connection where that's moving the sound within my physical body, is moving it to my skull. So my whole body begins to vibrate. And this is how sound was used thousands of years ago as well. And we were the instrument. We didn't have recorded music. People knew that we can have that effect on a physical body, just like when you hit a bowl, you're striking that bowl, right? And you're affecting it. That's what's happening when you're doing that with your tongue. You're engaging a circuit there. So again, scratching the surface for those of you who are curious about all this, I definitely suggest checking out some of the other things I'm doing as well, some of the courses I'm teaching on all this stuff if you want to dive deeper in.
Really has been so incredibly educational and amazing. And I'm always learning from you, and I'm always so grateful. And this has been great. I can't wait for session 3. We're really gonna, create a little program for ourselves. Thank you.
Yeah, session 3 will be fun. It will be really kind of taking it into movement and incorporating it into our lives. So we'll take areas of quantum 1 and quantum 2, and then great, how can we utilize that and bring that into chapter 3, which is our life.
Okay, so we will have to practice a little bit before. But thank you, Barry. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for our audience, all of our monthly donors, and everyone who joined tonight to listen to this amazing sound guru, artist, Barry. And Barry, before we end it, we're going to have you explain our little meditation that you were very instrumental in. So please take it away.
Instrumental, good pun there, Rose. That was awesome. You're really tuned in there. There we go. Okay, too many puns there. So I remember very distinctly when Go Love was created, and it was during COVID, as you all know, and Dr. Joe and I actually collaborated quite a bit during COVID, and found a recording studio not too far from him, and we found a way to keep creative going and a way to continue working with students and people who were in lockdown. And the biggest thing that was so inspiring to me was Dr. Joe. I remember saying, or something like saying, that love could not be quarantined, and that he was going to share this campaign called Go Love 20 that was going to be the answer, really, to how we can create something powerful during this time. And he asked for a piece of music, and I remember I had a song that I was working on called Lay Down in Love. And I thought, what better way to spread love than to reset and to regenerate and to be able to relax with love. And you really, I think, can feel the energy of the music and Dr. Joe's words and the intention that were put into that meditation. Initially, it was we were hoping to affect 500,000 people, and I think that it's reached over 2.5 million people now in more than 10 languages. So, and it never gets old. It never gets old sending love to someone that who needs it, or to yourself, or to the world. So I'm looking forward to doing this with all of you.
Eyes closed. Take a breath. For love into your heart. And exhale. and relax. Into your heart. Feel it. Notice it. Your heart. And breathe a little love into your heart. And exhale. And relax. Into your heart. And breathe in for love. Into your heart. And exhale. And relax. And let a little more love into your heart. And breathe for love into your heart. And exhale. And relax. And let love into your heart. And let the thoughts of someone you love bring up the feeling of love. In your heart. Feel it. Hold them in that feeling. In your heart. Hold them in your heart. Feel it. Now put their heart in your heart. And feel your love for them. In your heart. That's your love. You're giving them. In their heart. Feel it. That's energy. In your heart. That's energy. In their heart. That's your energy. In their heart. That's love. Your love. In their heart. That's love. In your heart. Feel it. Experience it. Enjoy it. That's the love you want them to feel. In their heart. Feel it. In your heart. Feel your connection to them. In your heart. One heart. That's love. In one heart. Feel it. And become one. In your heart. That's love. Your love. For their heart. That's your love. In your heart. Feel it. In your heart. That's energy. In your heart. That's a little more oneness. In your heart. That's your connection. To love. In your heart. That's the feeling. You want people you love to feel in their heart. And remember, this feeling know it by heart. That's life. In your heart. Who do you want to be? When you open your eyes. In your heart. Feel it. Your heart. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. And come back to the realm of space and time. Remember, there's love in your heart.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Quantum Soundtrack Part 2, Music's Influence on Brain Coherence. I hope that what you heard tonight from Barry and Rose was insightful and helped elevate your practice, as I'm sure it did mine. You have to look forward to the Quantum Soundtrack Part 3, which will be how to implement and create your own music for transformation. Please stay tuned for details from that. It'll be coming this spring, and I am really looking forward to that session. Up next month, we have one of our Quantum Jumpstart series, which if you haven't attended one of those yet, it is an open Q&A with Dr. Joe Greenhat, who is Heart Math certified and an NCS consultant. So any questions you have about the work, things that are coming up post-event, just need refreshers or looking to connect in community, we're going to be doing one of those alternating with one of our learning sessions every month in 2024. So would love to have you join that. It'll be February 16th at 12 p.m. Eastern. I think that's all we have for you guys tonight. We'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again, Barry, Rose. It was so wonderful having you here, and I really look forward to our next one. Good night, everyone.